Hey, everybody, welcome back to the AI and Business Podcast. We have got a lot to talk about this week. We were going to do a video on Claude Cowork, but then Claudebot came out, OpenClaw, Molebot, whatever it is. And we've just been nose deep into this. So forgive us for waiting a couple weeks. I was on vacation as well. But Aaron, what are your thoughts on OpenClaw?
Well, yeah, for me, the thing is, like, I mean, I see the definite benefit of it, but one of the challenges that I've had is right now I'm remote and I've been trying to set it up just like on a virtual server or something. And like all these places, they're all saying, like, yeah, it's like as easy as one click, but then it's like there's like a
Yeah.
250 step process that you got to go through
Dude,
to
I
like
tried to
actually
set
get
it
it
up
to
on
work.
that Amazon server, like, they were like, "Oh, just get the free AWS." That's the first thing I tried, and, like, I
Yeah.
immediately realized this wasn't gonna work.
Yeah.
Not the way
Yeah.
I
It's,
wanted
it's
it to, you know?
No, and then yeah, I mean, I think because before when I first started, because I think on the last episode, like before it even got super big and like went viral, I was mentioning about it and like how you can play around with it and use it. But I did get it set up on the cloud. I actually hooked it up to my API key, but it was going through OpenRouter, which it's like a place where you can access all the different models all in one spot.
Yeah.
But I like woke up, I gave it a few projects and stuff, and I woke up and then I didn't have a ton of money in the account. It was like 90 or $100 or something like that. But it had like eaten all of the credits up throughout the night and it basically gave me nothing. So I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth a bit like, with it
Yeah.
because I'm like, "This isn't really feasible if I gotta spend, $1,000 a month. Because then at that point, I might as well just, like, hire a human or something, but I know that you kinda have it set up
Did
locally.
I guess we'll explain to people first, like, what it is. So, AI agents have kind of been around. They kinda answer your questions, you can train it on a little bit about you, and they were helpful. I mean, this is kind of like talking to your ChatGPT that you've been using for a couple years, right? OpenClaw essentially gives that AI agent hands and arms. It's now able to do stuff for you, right? So it can check your emails. I mean, this is the simplest form, but check your emails, reply to people for you. It can write blog posts for you. It can make videos for you. It can edit videos, write scripts. It can just do all kinds of stuff. And you can just set it up kind of run automatically, essentially. So let's say I want to put out a blog post once every 3 days on my website. And you can just tell it to do that. Here's the topics you want to cover, and then it'll just do that. And that is in its absolute simplest form. Okay. The way that I have it set up is I have got two Claude subscriptions, Claude Max subscriptions. As one is getting close to the end of its usage for the week, it'll jump to the other one. And I've also got it set up to where I've got Kimmy 2.5 through OpenRouter. So it on another cloud bot on a different machine. I have all mine set up locally. I know you're talking about the virtual issues. I gave up on the virtual stuff pretty quickly and just used an old M1 MacBook Air that I had, set it up on that. And then I had an old gaming PC. I set up another one. And the one on the gaming PCs, the Kimmy, and the one on the MacBook Air is running Opus. And essentially, the Opus is my big brain. The Kimmy is it's an okay, I mean, it's pretty good, but it's a workhorse. And so because the Opus usage is expensive, what I'll do is everything I interact with is on my big brain, my Opus 4.6 now. And then when that is like, "Hey, I want you to code this website, create this website, or create this app," it'll then wireframe the whole thing that needs to be built, and then it'll send it off to Codex as well. It'll also run Codex. I've got linked for coding. But it'll say, "Hey, I need content for this website." It'll send that over to my workhorse one because it's way cheaper. It's like, I mean, it's working all the time, and I've spent like $2 and
Mhm.
it'll create all of the articles and all of the stuff that's needed, all of the content for the site. And so now I've got it pretty streamlined. I don't think I'm gonna need 2 max subscriptions anymore. I think it'll just do 1, but Claudebot or OpenClaw, whatever you call it, is so unbelievable. Like, I am just this is the AI that everyone is afraid of, and they should be afraid of this. It is unbelievable. If you can do it on a computer, OpenClaw can do it.
Mhm.
And it's gonna change everything. It's already changed everything for me. Like, I was building the Field Fix app, and the Field Fix app is essentially where people can put in, like, heavy equipment, track their heavy equipment, their hours, their service logs, costs, receipts, cost per hour, just for the equipment that we're using, because I needed it for Brushworks. And I have now used OpenClaw to create its own skill for Field Fix to where now I can interact with my equipment essentially through natural language. I can say, "Hey, what was my fuel cost this week compared to last week?" And
Mhm.
it's literally just you just set up an open claw skill, link it to the FieldFix API, and it just works. And so like now I'm thinking, what in the hell do I even need a dashboard for anymore? The only thing I do what is SaaS? Is SaaS gonna be worth anything? I don't know. I'm not sure because if everything I'm doing now is interacting with my agent, what is the value of SaaS in that world? I just
Right.
you know, it's just blowing my mind, Aaron. It's so good and it's changed everything. I had a list of things to do that's probably would have taken me 6 to 9 months. I ran it all through OpenClaw, got the whole list of stuff I needed to do done in like 2 days, and then I was like, "All right, now what do I do with my time?" It's it's been absolutely nuts, and, like, the amount of things I'm building like, my single human output right now is probably 1,000 times, if not more than that, of somebody who's not using this.
Right.
And now you're using like the still the Claude code and all that stuff. So like it's not 1,000 times somebody who's using Claude code for stuff and not using OpenClaw, but it's certainly 1,000 times somebody who's doing nothing.
Right,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
I mean, that's an insane thing that AI in general has allowed me to do, like, I can't even believe how much I'm doing at the same time right now, and I know I'm doing a lot of stuff, like, more manual, but I guess one thing for me is that like, when I'm doing it, I feel like a lot of times with AI, it kinda depends on, like, what you're producing. If you're, like, producing, like, I don't know, some ad copy, if you're producing, like, something, fairly simple, then a lot of times the AI, of course, it can just run on its own and then it can give you the output and everything's awesome. But like, I do think that there's some level still of like, you need to still go in and like verify what it's doing because a lot of times Claude is like, it'll like continually tell you the right things. It'll tell you all the stuff that you want to hear, but it's like actually kind of, in my opinion, it feels like it's almost taking advantage of your credits because like a lot of times it says, yeah, done, I fixed this. And then you go into it and then it's still not fixed. So that's been my main frustration with like AI, not just cloud, but just AI in general. It just like a lot of times will lie to you and say that it did something,
Yeah.
but
So, Aaron, I know exactly what you're talking about, and as I was building, like, the Field Picks app and stuff, I dealt with that all the time. Like, because I
mhm,
built that through Cursor, and, like, it would build it, and I'm like, "Ah, does it work, though? Like, it still doesn't work,"
right.
and I would just keep, like, "Just keep fixing it, make no mistakes," you know?
Yeah.
Of course, it, like, didn't work, but I have had ever since I've run OpenClaw, my issues with that have dropped by 99%. Like, now it'll just do it, and I think it's because AI is better at prompting AI than you are. So
Yeah.
OpenClaw is essentially taking well, my Opus connected to OpenClaw is essentially taking what I'm trying to accomplish and then providing that to Codex in a format that's better for Codex to understand. So, like, when I say, "Hey, this still isn't working," it'll then say, "Hey, Codex, check this," right? And so, like, it's better at prompting than I am better at prompting. So, like, my issues with that have almost completely disappeared. If anything, it's all the only issues I run into still are with deployment. Like, deployment is better, but it's still a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been kind of the case with AI in general too. It's like it will work perfectly on your computer. As soon as you go to like actually upload it or put it on the cloud somewhere, it just like breaks and then you gotta spend the next like traditionally like the next 30 minutes hour just trying to figure out what's going on. So I guess like the main thing that OpenClaw allows you to do is just like kind of forget about it and then it's just processing it in the background. So even though it may not necessarily be doing the right thing right away, it's continually like making iterations, checking things, doing all that type of stuff. Cause that's one thing I noticed too when I'm making apps. It's like what I'll do anymore. Before I used to like try to actually list out, everything that needed to happen and fix it. But now I'm just like, no, create me a plan for all the things that are wrong or like use all these different skill sets or these different engineers to actually build and map out a whole plan. Right now I'm using Claude Code on the Max plan, but I'm actually enabling a feature that isn't on by default. You actually have to go in and like modify the config file, or really you can just tell Claude more or less to do it. Once you have the article, you can just point it there and it will go through and do it for you through Claude Code. But that's been a huge thing for me is like actually installing skills, which is similar to like OpenClaw
It's the
too.
same thing, yeah, because
Yeah,
the Claude Max, so the OpenClaw runs on Claude Code. So you basically install Claude Code first, right? So like any of
right.
the OpenClaw skills are usable, but also any of the Claude Code skills are usable. So you
Yeah.
just like tell it like, "Hey, add this skill," and it just does it, and it runs in Claude Code. Yeah, it's Aaron, I feel like you gotta get yourself the local setup because you're missing out. I need you to just go drop $1,000 right now and just go get the Mac Mini, sign up for another Mac subscription, and just set it loose,
Well, that's
man.
the
I feel
thing.
like
I got like 3 computers just sitting around doing nothing back
I know. I
at
can
home,
run
but
over there for you, by the way, if you want me to
yeah.
set one up for you. Yeah, I can run over there and grab one. But yeah, I'll just plug it in at my house.
But
But
yeah, that's like I think that's probably the better ultimately, like, the better way to do it because it's like, yeah, there are security things, like, you have to consider. I think that's a big part of
yeah,
it,
just
like,
do it on
why
my network.
yeah, I think that's why a lot of people are a bit more hesitant because it's like, if you set
Yeah.
it up wrong, you can actually get hacked, people can send things through and, like, have your cloud bot, like, wipe out your whole machine, if it's, like, your home computer. If it's, like, a computer that's
Yeah.
already, like, doesn't have anything on it anyway, it's not really that big of a deal, but still, you do wanna make sure it's, like, locked down, but I feel like the cloud version, it's like they're almost too locked down to where you can't even barely
Mhm.
change the model, and then it's like, or you gotta just keep going back and forth, but no, we do have one set up on AWS right now, and it's just using the Kimi K2.5. It's starting to I'm having, like, my business partner go through different things that he's doing consistently, but, like, I'm saying, "No, like, we need to do better," because it's like the things that worked in the past, if you had a huge list of things that you wanted to work on in marketing or reach or whatever else, it's like it always required another tool, it required another setup, it required a bunch of your time, so I'm like, take off those things that are, like, constantly annoying you, like bookkeeping and most of our tax stuff through Claude and just blocked out anything that's, you know, like our socials and things that are like you don't wanna necessarily send to Claude. But it was
Yeah.
insane how well just by going directly through Claude, it's like it can itemize everything, it can get everything prepped, and this isn't tax advice, by the way. Gotta always
Dude, I have
stipulate
it
that.
connected right now through the API on our CRM. So, like, I basically spun off another bot for Brushworks, right? So it still runs on the same thing, but it just transferred over all the training for Brushworks and then connected it to all of the APIs that Brushworks uses, one of which being our CRM. And some of the reports that you get from your CRM are like They're pretty basic, pretty boring. They don't really tell you much. But I now can interact with my CRM through natural language, right? I can go on to Jobber and then like or go onto my Cloudbot and it'll just pull the Jobber information for me that I ask it to. So I can
Mhm.
be like, hey, how much revenue did we do in jobs last week? What was our cost on that? How many hours did Austin work? How many did we have any issues come up? What's the driveway access like? I mean, literally anything I can just ask this thing now and it just tells me. And like on top of that, it's also connected to our Google Drive, to our emails, to everything. So it's basically like I'm just talking to this thing and it's engaging, it's engaged in the whole business. And like I can have it do all of these things. So not only can it just read and see all this stuff, I can have it do updates. I can be like, hey, send a quote to James Smith for $3,200. It'll just do it. It just
Right.
creates it like a perfect professional quote and rolls them into the follow ups through Zapier. I mean, it's just all automatic. It's like, I mean, we had the N8N automations and all that stuff, but this is like a whole another level. I canceled N8N, Make, Midjourney. I don't know, so many. I probably canceled $400 or more in software and like AI
Yeah.
subscriptions. I only have this now. So like, cause it's all you need. It's all you need now.
Yeah.
Like I don't even need a lot of the softwares I'm using anymore. You can give your body its own email address. I gave it, and I'm not gonna say the email address because I don't want anybody to do anything nefarious, but I gave it an email address, right? To
Right.
where it can email people on behalf of the company. And I just put a little email signature on there that says, this is an AI assistant, blah, 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 So that way, if you email somebody something and it's stupid, which it hasn't yet, it's always been perfect. It's better than I can write the emails. And it's crazy. So, like, it knows our business, it knows the context of everything, it knows everything, and it just, like, it knows who this person is, it knows what they're asking for, it can formulate the email, respond to them. If it schedules something for me, it'll automatically put it on my schedule, it'll then send me an update that day, like, "Hey, Alex, this is on your schedule," and it's like, "Oh my god." I didn't even know I had this many things to automate until I actually did this, and I get the, like, security aspect of things. Like, I get that people are worried about having their information out there, the APIs, but also at the same time, if you're not doing this in your business, you are losing ground to people who are at an extremely rapid pace. Like, you literally, you kinda have to take the security risk. Unless you're in, like, finance or medical, I probably wouldn't do it.
Right.
If you're just, most other businesses, like the security risk is worth it simply so you don't just get behind because the people who are utilizing this are just going to be walking circles around you. Like
Yep.
I said, Aaron, I'll give you a story. I was, I was probably, oh, geez, it was probably 2 weeks ago. And we had the big snowstorm up here, right? And I had to go to the doctor's office. I had an issue with my back. All right. And I'm sitting in the waiting room and there's this secretary sitting up there, and she's just like going through answering phone calls. There was a snowstorm, so people were rescheduling. She's like fumbling around, looking at her calendar, like, hello, this is the doctor's office. Can I reschedule you? Just like you could tell she was stressed, she was freaking out. And I'm just like watching this lady as I'm sitting in this waiting room. And I'm like, this is crazy. I could literally, you give me 10 minutes, let me sit at her desk for 10 minutes and I could send her home and her job is completely automated. Like that's literally where we're at right now. And then I got to think, I was like, oh my God, we already do this stuff for Brushworks. Like it's already a thing. It's just that I automated it 2 years ago that I forget that it even happens.
Right.
Like we basically have a secretary, an AI secretary. So like there's so many things I see like that in the world now. Every time I look out in the world, I'm like, your job's automated, your job could be automated, your job could be automated. Like what do we even need the you anymore for? And that's the scary part I think about with AI, which a lot of people are afraid of it. But also at the end of the day, you gotta look at it this way. If you are working a job where they're replacing people with AI, you better be the best one with AI.
Yeah.
Because if you know how to utilize it and you know how to build all these tools to replace all the people around you, you're the last one who gets fired.
Yep.
So that's all I'm saying. If you don't want to be caught in the dark, like some of these people I'm watching do work and it looks like they're in the Stone Age. It's so weird because 3 years ago, not even probably, I would have been like, oh, it's just normal. They look like they're just doing a normal job. You know, now
Right.
I look at it like, oh my gosh, like these people are still over there chiseling the first wheel, you know? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would
I don't know.
even
Aaron, where do you think this is gonna go? Like, where do you think? Because, like I said, I don't even see a need for SaaS anymore other than, like, I don't even see a need for it to go and open up a dashboard and look at certain data. Like, I could just ask an agent to do that for me. Like, where do you see SaaS now?
yeah, I mean,
Like,
I
where
like one of our products we're launching, I mean, it's basically almost not 100% like SaaS or not 100% just an agent, but it's like a combination of a SaaS and agents. So I do think that there still is some use cases, like when you're really analyzing numbers, when you're trying to figure out certain things, not to say that like that person's going to necessarily be there like crunching the numbers, but people still feel like there needs to be a little bit of a level of control before they start to apply things, especially in like the case where I'm working on. It's like they're actually managing other clients' accounts. It's not even just their data. So they don't want to. What they don't want to do is just go out and apply everything blindly, and then all of a sudden, the account gets wrecked, and now they have to actually speak for it. So I do see that a large majority of it, yeah, it's gonna be moving away from the actual interface, but there's still something, at least for me, like inherently that I wanna see a chart. I wanna see a
that's
graph. I
because you're still
wanna
Bob Cutting like it's 2025, Aaron.
But,
No. But I think that's a good point in that I think that
yeah.
if you're building SaaS right now or you own SaaS, like you use a lot of it, um, you need to just like you need to have an API and you need to have that API accessible and usable by an agent easily. Like you should have a whole page on your website dedicated to like you should make an OpenClaw skill or an agent skill. It's you can have multiple different kinds of agents where they can easily just plug in your SaaS into their agent, but they have to grab your API key, right? So like you can limit the access of the agent too if you don't want to burn like a bunch of API stuff, but at the same time, like I feel like you have to have it now. You have to. And and that's gonna set you apart from everybody else, especially the older companies. Like the older
Mm.
companies who they haven't even looked like they haven't updated their software in 15 years. Like you think they're gonna add agent support to it? I
Right,
very much
yeah.
doubt it, right? So utilize the data that you're collecting for each customer, build it into an API and make an agent skill where your customers can interact with that. I feel like we're not building things for people anymore. We're building things for agents. And I think you
Yeah.
have to have that for software. You have to have an agent skill for your SaaS.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too is, like, because I had, what, probably, like, 10 or 15 years, probably 15 years almost in like corporate America. And it's like there's an adoption curve to every new technologies. Like, yeah, we're on the ground floor. We're implementing it day one because we're like lean. We're very like, I forget the word now. It's there's like a specific word that like in development that means like you can just it's agile, that's what it is. But like it means that you can just take an idea, you can implement it into your business day one, and you don't have anyone to actually, ask or get authority to do something like that. But I think on the flip side of that, what a lot of people forget is like when you are working in corporate America, you might be waiting like 6 months or a year just to get approved to change a button on a web page. There's
Well,
all
I will
kinds of
say I did
political
meet
stuff.
somebody, like I met a guy whose job it is to go into large corporations and establish AI for them. And, they are very serious about it and he's pretty good at his job. So like they are implementing it, but you know, That brings me to when we're talking about large corporations, that kind of brings me to I had an argument with somebody on X, and they're like, "Well, OpenClaw is open source, so it'll never be," because I said it was going to get neutered, right? I said, "Look, here's what's going to happen. It's inevitable this is going to get neutered. If it's too good to be true, it usually is." And people were commenting, they're like, "Well, this is an open source. You can have open source models and you can have open source like the open agents and stuff." And I said, "I get that. I get that. I'm not saying that the open source stuff is going to go away. What I'm saying is the companies who have the data that you need to in the services that you need to connect to their API are going to make it very difficult for you and like or very expensive because that's what I mean by neutered, right? It's a dog with no balls, essentially. It's a car with no roads, right?
Mhm.
You can so it's gonna be it could be powerful, but if these big corporations say, well, "Hey, cute little agent, our API only allows you to connect through Google's agent." Or OpenAI's agent. So these big AI companies are going to come out with their own agents, and these big data companies are going to lock them to those agents. So I don't care how open source it is. If it's a car with no roads, it's not going to go anywhere. And I feel like that's 100% where we're headed. And like, you better get it now while getting's good because that I think that window is going to close so rapidly to where this open source stuff is not gonna be it's not gonna be really worth anything. It's gonna become corporatized because people, mega corporations are gonna be like, "Well, we want this. Look at these small companies." And I think they'll even go as far as regulations because there's a simple rule with large corporations that has always been true, and that's if they lose on innovation, they win on regulation.
Yeah.
Like, they lose on innovation all the time, but it doesn't matter because they have the lobbyists and they have the power to regulate you into oblivion. And then they'll regulate you into oblivion and pick up the pieces. And, hey, thanks for that innovation you created us. And so now what you've created is worth absolutely nothing while they just steal it and gave
Right.
themselves and like that's 100% going to happen. And for like people who are like, "Oh, open source, open source, open source." I get it, but you're wrong. There's no way these mega corporate they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars. We're in Ohio. They are building enormous million square foot data centers for AI right now, and they are doing no expenses spared. We want it as fast and big as possible. And I mean, you drive by these places, they'll have 80 freaking multi-million dollar excavators sitting out there. I mean, they're just throwing money at it left and right. And if you think open source is gonna win, you're totally naive. It's not. So get while the getting's good because they're gonna come out with their own agents and people like Google and Meta and all, you're managing your ads with your open agent. Sorry, it's not gonna happen anymore. Meta's not gonna allow you to do that. Google's not gonna allow you to see your analytics anymore. They're not gonna allow you to use Gmail anymore, right? They're gonna lock it down to approved agents and I feel like this is where it's going, and I feel like it's gonna happen in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think I mean, from my perspective, I think it's like, in a way, it depends on leadership and everything's cyclical, right? It's like, if you look back just in history, like when I was working for a big corporation, we basically exclusively worked with Cisco, which was like a huge networking company. We worked with like Oracle, and like we had these big, long-standing contracts with them. But what ended up happening is like after a little bit of time and new leadership, they actually started to have a shift in their mentality around open source, and they completely wiped out all of the Cisco phones, all of the I mean, they still had them there, but they were like their whole initiative was to convert all the routers, convert all the phones, everything into open source because from like a
That
cost
would be the
saving
dream, Aaron. I feel
initiative.
like there's definitely gonna be instances of that, but I just don't feel like that's gonna hold out, like, long term, but I really hope it does,
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
but
I'm a
I
little
do
bit
see
more
what you're saying
pessimistic.
too, like with like Google, for example, like that company couldn't control what Google does. They can't control what Amazon does, right? They're a big company, but they weren't running their own models. They weren't, in charge of that type of stuff. So So, yeah, I mean, I think it depends. But also, the other thing just to consider is like a lot of people say, well, yeah, you can just run the open source model. Like, I have a 48 gig, or I think it's 48 gig
Yeah.
MacBook Pro, and it's like it really runs really well. It can run a lot of local models really well as also, but there's still like an upper limit as to what it can do. So until we get to that point of like the technology being able to be ran on almost like a smaller model and run smaller hardware, that is almost impossible because you got to buy like $10,000 or like this really expensive hardware if you actually want the upper end of
Yeah.
the models. And I think that's where like open source can't compete right now because like no one has billions of dollars just sitting around to open up their own data center and start using their own AI models, right? So you can do it on a small scale, of course, but the normies too, like they're not gonna, I mean, they're probably not even gonna be setting any of this up to begin with. So that's another thing that I think
Yeah,
we
that's
have to
true.
like remember
Yeah.
is like when we're making products even, it's like, how can I make this a normie friendly software like OpenClaw? There's a lot of people now that are starting to spin up their own version of OpenClaw and they're selling it or they're making thousands of dollars a month on the fact that people are afraid to set up their own virtual server. Or they just don't know how to do all this and they don't even want to be involved in it. So like Meta, another good example is Meta just bought out what was that one? It's like it's in Manus AI. So that's like
Mhm.
that was actually one of the first AI agents that was kind of in existence. And one good thing about that is like it can do pretty much everything OpenClaw probably can do, but you don't have to give it any credentials. It's already automatically set up. So I think that's probably the more likely scenarios, whether it's built on open source, whether it's built normally, in my opinion, it's like it's just gonna
Yeah.
become like, normalized essentially. It has to become normalized for the majority to use it because if we look at it today, it's like most people are even barely using ChatGPT. Now, it is becoming a lot more well known. Like I'm here in Colombia and I hear people talking about ChatGPT all the time.
Dude, I was on
And
a
it's, that
plane
that blew my
and
mind.
I heard probably 5 or 6 different people just in my immediate surroundings talking about AI, and
Yeah.
these were like I was going to Florida. Now these were like old people.
Yep.
They're talking about and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy."
Yeah. Even my
It's
parents
basically it's
use
definitely hit a
ChatGPT. So
household name.
yeah, it's hit mainstream for the basic task, but, like, people are still in that mindset of, "I have to do everything manually," and I just heard
Yeah,
about a
yeah.
story. I think they were saying that they just launched, a version of, like, OpenClaw, but they were able to eliminate, like, 20 people within their team from their setup from OpenClaw, so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna come and wreck a lot of things, but I'd even go one step further to what you were saying before about like if you're in a job and you're learning it, I would say screw your job, like start doing it on your
Yeah.
own and like you're gonna make that's the only way that you're gonna actually be able to make money in the future, in my opinion, is because like no one can fire you if it's your own thing, right? But like if you're working for someone else, as soon as these models, I mean the models are already pretty much there in terms of being
Aaron,
able
did
to
you know that there
replace.
was a time in the United States where over half of the country was self-employed?
Nah, I didn't.
Yeah, this is like what, the 1930s, it's 30, yeah, before a lot of these like major mega corporations came in, like everything was small business and like half the people in the country were operating their own business. So
Yeah.
I think that that's exactly where it's going to go. And I was just talking about this recently because I was like, when a corporation fires somebody and replaces them with AI, they don't go away. It's not so simple as just to fire somebody, then all of a sudden, "Oh, my problems disappeared, I no longer have to pay this person a salary," because they're a human being, and they've got willpower, and they've got ideas, and guess what? They also know how your company works now. So,
Yep.
like, these people are gonna come they're not gonna just stop, they're just gonna be like, "Oh, say you took away my $60,000 a year salary. Well, boohoo, what am I gonna do?" No, they're gonna go and they're gonna take all of the tools that you could use that they have access to, but guess what? They're a lot smaller. They're agile. They can adopt all the new tools coming out. They can
Yep.
build a competing company and just go and take on those corporations that just got rid of them. And that's gonna happen when these corporations eliminate 60% of the workforce. That's gonna happen on a mass scale, and I can tell you right now, a lot of those people are gonna win. And
Yeah.
I think that AI is sending us into it's not as scary as people think it is. I think actually the quite opposite is true. I think that we're actually going to be going into a new golden age where a majority of Americans and people around the world are self-employed and we're not reliant on these mega corporations anymore. And then open source will be insanely powerful because the data will be in the hands of regular people and not megacorps, right? So like I think that's where it's going to go. That's my optimistic view of things. And I really hope that that's what happens. But I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd love to see that too. I mean, I'm just thinking back just to when I started my marketing agency like 7 or 8 years ago now, and it was like it took us like a year to just even become start to become profitable, and then it's like now we have to allocate money to pay people, and a lot of times for us, we were just paying people remotely. We weren't paying, as much as we would have had to, let's say stateside. But if you're trying to, like in the past, it's like if you try to start your own business, it's really, really difficult because you have to go through that initial period and get profitable enough to actually start bringing people in. But now it's like we're going to start to see all these one person businesses that are like potentially
Aaron,
$1 trillion businesses.
dude, actually, I just thought of something. You're talking about like marketing. A great example of that is how media has been democratized, essentially, right? So, like, it used to be that everybody was watching the same TV shows. We were all listening to the same music. You only
Right.
heard the music that was played on the radio, and the radio
Yep.
stations were all owned by the same company, right? Or the same 2 companies. Or you watch the TV shows that were all on the same cable stations. Well, with YouTube and TikTok and all of these other platforms, you now have essentially you've got creators out there, individual people that now the eyeballs are looking at them. The power of the music industry and the media industry has been completely stripped away. And I think that with like these agents, that's where we're headed in the business industry,
Yeah.
right? The rest of the industries where you're going to have like these mom and pop grocery stores that are really well done and managed flawlessly that people go to because the whole idea AI has essentially democratized the platform just like YouTube and TikTok and all these other things did for video media and music.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true that, like you said, in the past, it's like when we were even growing up and going to school, it's like you talked about the series that was on CBS or like, like something specifically that was even just
Yeah,
on
did you guys catch
TV
The
or
Survivor last night?
yeah, yeah.
You
And
know what
now
I
it's
mean?
like you say, "Did
You
you
guys hear
catch
that new
this
Eminem
show?" And
drop?
they're like, "What? I've never even heard of that show. Like, what is that?"
Yeah, yeah.
Because the algorithm's
Dude,
just
it's so
always
far to that
pushing
point
you.
now where, like, there's this whoever's playing at the Super Bowl, and they're like, this bad they call him Bad Bunny or whatever. I'm like, "Who
But
is
yeah.
that?" I've
Why
literally
not?
never heard the name before, but yet there's people out there who are like, "Oh my god, how have you never heard of Bad Bunny? He's one of the most streamed people." Yeah, yeah, but you gotta understand, it used to be if there were one of 100 artists playing on the radio, now he's one of 100,000 that I can stream on Spotify. So, like, you've now essentially taken all of the listens and spread them across, and I can listen to whatever I want now. So, like, the reason I've never heard of Bad Bunny is because I don't listen to that stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, I just never even heard of him. And
Well,
I think
it's
that,
it's
like
also like a Latin singer because like if you say that in Colombia, it's like a sin if you don't know who Bad Bunny is because it's like
oh,
that's a
really?
crazy yeah.
Well, Aaron, buy a video
It's called
board and
Ray.
take that clip and put it up there.
Yeah, because it's called like reggaeton. But that is an interesting thing that I've found in terms of like culture shock here in Colombia is that like it's almost like living back in the 1980s or 2000s
Yeah.
or something like that, where technology, like the infrastructure's there. I have fiber internet. I mean, there's a lot of things that are catching up, but in terms of the mentality of the people, it's still like very much so on idolizing celebrities and like
It's
things like that. That
centralized. The
yeah,
media is centralized was what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot more centralized. They still have access to obviously Instagram and
Yeah,
Facebook
yeah.
and TikTok and all these other
Spotify.
platforms, but there's still like that sense of, oh yeah, like everyone likes this band and that kind of stuff where it doesn't
Yeah.
exist in the US. But yeah, anyway, it's like yeah, I think that's in a way it's like it's definitely bad for the propagandists, right? Because like when you want to just send one message to
Yeah,
everyone,
we're
then
decentralizing. It's essentially decentralizing power with that's what AI is doing.
yeah,
And I think that like it's if you're not using this stuff like agents or Cloud Code or if you're not using it in your business, I got bad news. There's basically going to be about hundreds of thousands of people who get laid off from corporations who are using it
yeah.
and they're gonna be your competitors soon, so you better get on it, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, the hard
You
part
better
to it
sit
too
down and
is
learn about it, we're not making how-to videos, but there's a lot of YouTubers out there who make how-to videos. Go
right.
start watching it and go learn it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, you can literally learn how to do anything. I always tell my girlfriend that, it's like, I don't she's like, "I don't know how to use Canva." I'm like, "Well, just watch a YouTube." She gets
Yeah.
pissed off at me about that, but because, like, she wants, like, a step by step, but that's, like, another thing too is, like, a lot of people, maybe they're just not in the same mentality as us as, like, self-starters and people that wanna go and explore things on their own, or they don't get energy from the
Yeah, 100%. I made this point the other day with somebody. I was like, the people who don't like AI or don't know what to do with it, don't do anything. It's
right.
that simple. Like, if you can't figure out what to do with it, well, you probably weren't doing anything in the first place. Because the people who do things are utilizing it to streamline the things that they do.
Yeah.
So only the people who don't do things are the ones that struggle with it and don't know what to use it.
Right. But I guess
It's
put
just
your
that
yeah, if
simple.
you put yourself in, like, the mindset of, like, someone that they're, like, on an application and they're afraid to, like, create a transition effect on a video software. It's like, do you think they're really gonna spend the next 12 hours decoding OpenClaw and setting up GPUs and
Dude,
open
I've seen
source
people
models?
oh, man, I've seen
They
some
get so
crazy stuff,
frustrated.
like, open an app and it crashes, and like, "Well, just give up on that,
Yeah.
never gonna work," you know?
Technology.
It's
When you're
crazy.
talking to someone on the phone, they're like, "Yeah, my computer's froze, technology, right?" Yeah,
Yep, technology, right, yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, just keep thinking
Heck
that way. But that's a huge I think that also is opening up, like, a huge arbitrage opportunity right now. It's like the haves and the have-nots essentially is how it's going to become, even more so than it is
Mhm.
today, because
Yep.
people that adapt to the technology, people that learn, people that aren't afraid of it, they don't just get frustrated after the first thing that goes wrong. Those are gonna be the innovators and the people that are gonna essentially dominate everything. I also get, like, super frustrated with people that are my friends, but they're, like, still stuck in more or less a dead-end job, or even if they're making, like, 100, $200,000 a year, like a good, salary, it's like they don't even wanna learn they don't even have that desire to, like, learn outside of work or spend their time actually
Mhm.
like being a lifelong learner. So as soon as they get laid off, they're just in a bad situation. Now maybe
Well,
that will force them to
yeah,
actually do it, but their
I think
default is
too,
like
like,
just go,
people get trapped. I think what you're saying like, they have the $100,000, $200,000 job. They go to work and they do the same thing every day, and then they go home and then they just entertain themselves, and
yeah,
it's a terrible trap to be in. And like as somebody who's been self-employed for most of my life, like constantly learning new things and seeking new things and trying to get better at things. When I see somebody doing their job, I don't it doesn't often matter how much money they're making. It always looks so simple to me. It's like you're
Yeah.
just doing this one repetitive like, maybe you've got, like, 5 or 6 different things that you do, but, like, it's all pretty simple, actually, and they're not challenging themselves in any way, and I feel like, yeah, I think that's the biggest problem with people is, like, to go and learn platforms like or agents like OpenClaw, Claude whatever you call it, and to learning AI, it's like that the challenge for them to get up and learn something new is a steep mountain to climb, whereas, like, people who are entrepreneurs and business owners and stuff, it's very easy for them to do it. It's a
Yeah.
normal everyday occurrence to learn something new, whereas for a lot of people, it isn't. It's climbing a mountain.
Well,
I think
it's
that
like a comfort zone thing is what I've found out because like people even when I left my corporate job, I had a bit of fear just like putting in my resignation, right? Because it's like the fear of the unknown. You don't know how long you don't know how long you're gonna live without money and like there's a lot of hoops to essentially jump through. But I was just talking to my business partner because I think he's in like Brazil right now. But him and I both we travel quite a bit and I was in Ecuador not too long ago, now in Colombia. But it's like even that piece, like I see a bunch of people even like, barely getting by in the US because they can't afford the cost of living, and I'm like, "Oh, it's easy, just, move to Colombia or go somewhere else," and, like but, like, that has a huge barrier too, like, for example, you have a kid now, right, and a lot of my friends have kids, and it's like, it's very hard for them to, like, just get up and move everything, but if they did, they would be living like a king, making, like, a minimum wage salary in the US essentially, and being able to
yeah.
stack tons and tons of money, but a lot of it's like, comfort zone, logistics, like, there's a lot of pieces, right? Like, it's
We're
hard
gonna
for
need to
you
make
to
a
do the
motivational video at some point.
Yeah,
Get people going. Just do it. Like, seriously, just do
yeah,
it. That's one of the biggest I remember the time when you were quitting your job at Kroger or you were thinking about it, and I'm like, "Dude, just do it. Who cares? Who
yep,
cares?" Like, at the end of the day, who do you want to determine your worth? Do you wanna do it or do you want somebody else to do it? Do you wanna die knowing that somebody else determined what your value was on this earth? I don't think so. So,
right,
do it.
yeah.
Who cares? Yeah, you're gonna fail, that's the point. Like, you're gonna fail and you're gonna get back up and do it again, you know? So,
Yeah, I
like,
think that was God,
yeah, I just think that that's just do it. Just go, you know?
like the Nike saying, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I think one of the most profound things I heard about that or in that regards was like basically you have to it's like I'm either gonna do this or I would rather just die, right? Like it's like that mentality that you have to have. Like I'm gonna make this work or I'm I'm gonna die because I don't wanna sit the next 20 years in an office under fluorescent light bulbs and like barely be able to speak my like truth or whatever. I hate that saying, but like be able to like
yeah.
speak who I am and like actually communicate. I had to always be proper, inside of corporate America and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it's so freeing because like you can literally say anything you want. And yeah, maybe you have backlash. I mean,
He
there's
just
all
reminded
like
me of something, Aaron. It's funny.
there's
I was
all
just talking
always
to somebody in
repercussions.
corporate at one of the
Yeah.
equipment manufacturers, super high up corporate guy, right? He's like he calls me and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I just got out of a meeting," and I'm like, "Oh, flipper guys, you guys got a lot of those shit meetings." He was like, "Yeah," like, you could tell he, like, loved it that I said that, but at the same
Yeah.
time, he was still like because I could say that I don't need a filter, you know what I mean? Whereas he's, like,
Right.
super professional. It was just funny because, like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's all a facade. It's like LinkedIn. It's total fake crap
Yeah.
everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I know some of these people, you know, and they're putting CEOs, CFOs, VP. No, you're not. Like,
Right.
you're not doing any of that. It's funny. It's like it's all a facade. It's all marketing. And once people realize that, I think they're a lot more motivated to do things.
Yeah.
People aren't that special, you know. Just go out and do
Yeah, I
it,
think a
and you're
lot of
doing it for yourself and your family and stuff. at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
and I think a lot of people they just end up like listening to their parent, even like when they're adults, they're still listening to their parents, they're still listening to other people, their opinions and that kind of stuff. Like,
Yep.
I mean, obviously most of the time parents are they have good intentions to like keep you safe and not have you being like on the street and not being able to, pay for your food and that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it's that a lot of people don't even understand the opportunities that we have today, especially like the older generation. They can't
Mhm.
even fathom what we're doing right now, right? They still get
Yeah.
tricked every day from AI like, because they can't tell the
Oh, dude,
difference
they're
between what's
yeah.
real and what's
See, some of the stuff I see they respond to, I'm like, "Come on."
yeah,
But you're right, there's a lot of social pressure too, like, if you wanna start your own business, you wanna utilize AI to start your own you're gonna lose your job soon probably, so, like, you wanna start yourself with AI, there's a lot of social pressure to starting a business, people kinda put you up on a pedestal if you're a business owner, and you don't wanna fail and fall off that pedestal, but, like, I've always just let it with, like, "Yeah, I'm probably gonna fail at it. Just a
yeah,
heads up, everybody," you know? And then eventually you do. I mean, you will, and that's the thing. You will fail, but then you'll eventually succeed.
yeah.
I've used this term before, but just keep beating your head against the wall, and eventually you'll break through.
Yeah, and you never really fail, right? Like it's like
Right? You never
not like you're
fail. You
starting
always.
for over.
What's the Edison quote? I never failed. I just
I
learned a
failed a
hundred
thousand.
thousand ways it didn't work, or something.
Yeah, yeah, I failed 1,000 times or, yeah, I forget
Yeah.
exactly, but I know what you're talking about. But yeah, no, that's true too. Because I remember back before I was with my girlfriend, it was like going out to these network events and things in Ohio, and it's like you go to these events. I went with my business partner a few times. It's like you talk to you're around all these people and it's like, what do you do? They're like, I'm a logistics manager for XYZ company. And I'm like, okay, like what's that even mean? But okay. And then like as soon as you say like, they're like, what do you do? I'm like, oh well, I just have a marketing company. You're like, you're even trying to downplay it. It's like the
Oh
girls
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff
My
are just like
business partner tells
mesmerized.
people that he just cuts trees for a living.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's a
know,
much easier path because it's like,
Nobody knows he's got this business with hundreds of thousands, $1 million worth of equipment and like all this stuff. He doesn't talk
yeah,
about that. He's just like
no,
he would rather them just think that he cuts trees for a living, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I think that's like another piece of it. It just kinda it's almost like it's like the saying it's lonely at the top. It's like when you're doing something different than everyone else in society, or not everyone else, but the large
In
majority
your
of
peer group.
society. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looked at differently. You can't relate to people as easily like when you're trying to talk to them about the day to day because they don't understand that you're not just doing one little thing and you're focusing in on that, like you're doing like 20 or 30 things at the same time. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it works really well,
And
but
an
you're
important thing to keep
making
in
the
mind with
rush.
that too, Aaron, is that you like doing those 20 to 30 things. That's one of
Yeah.
the things you can never relate with most people on is they hate their jobs. And all they want to talk about is how much they hate their jobs. When you talk about how much you like doing what you do, you're instantly outcasted from that conversation
Yeah.
because you can't relate with them anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it's a strange road, but I feel like with agents coming out and companies replacing people, like, I don't need admin people. I know that nobody's gonna need them. 'Em. They're not gonna need programmers and a lot of 'em,
Hmm.
junior programmers especially. They're not gonna need if you work at a computer for a living, I don't care how hard, complicated you think your job is, sorry, it's
Yeah.
gone. So, like, you better learn how to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And
And
let's
these,
return America
yeah.
to 1820s, 40s when we had a bunch of entrepreneurs. We had a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and bring this country back to a golden age.
Yeah. I'm hoping that that will be the way that it moves forward and not just like people
Yeah.
like all suffering and not being able to pay for anything and depending on government because that's like the worst thing.
There's two ways this could go.
Yeah, you get your check every month from the government,
Yeah, yeah.
but
All right,
you can't
well,
do much.
we should probably wrap it up, but And thanks
Yeah.
everybody for watching AI and Business podcast. If you like this conversation, make sure you give us a like and please subscribe to the channel. We love having you around. See you in the next one.
Oh, and by the way, if you want Alex's email address for his Claude bot, just comment bot below.